Yeah, I guess. All right. So, welcome back to Positive Fandom Part 2 for today. We are live again. And so, we were talking about Batman. And as I said, I do have tickets. You said you had tickets on Thursday.
Hmm.
And as I mentioned, I have tickets on Wednesday to go see the movie. I am so excited to see it. It looks very raw, and we were talking about the trailer, which we can't show because
Hmm.
they don't want us to. But anyway, it still looks amazing. And you were in the middle of talking. Am I correct, Russ?
No, we were just sort of bouncing some ideas backwards and forwards, and I think I don't know if we are people still in the chat. I can't actually see, so I don't know because Tom Junior Jackson was saying that we're not streaming, so I don't.
Yes, I took care of that. So now we're on a new link.
Okie doke.
Um, yeah. So I got a message. I got
Mm.
a message privately that it told me that that was the case. So
Hey Paul,
um,
yes, we back.
yeah. So and good morning to you, Paul from Long Beach. How are you today? And Zacharat, 315. Good morning. We're going to be talking about, um, of course, the Batman film coming out, which is what we were kind of talking about before. But welcome everybody back to Sunday Brunch. Um, and honestly, actually, what we were saying was about you were saying something about how Patterson is being judged on something from so many years ago, and how it just isn't right that he should be judged just
No, if
solely
it,
on.
sorry, or I mean, I think it just flies in the face of all logic. Okay, he's been in a couple of teen franchises. I mean, everybody starts out somewhere. It's I don't get it myself. I mean, the guy's he's grown up now. He's a mature man, and I he's clearly a brilliant actor. He does these little independent movies, some of which he did one on a spaceship, that's about a bunch of people going off to colonize Mars or whatever it was, and apparently it was. But I've not seen it, but it's one of those ones that's a sci-fi movie that's all set in a singular location, much like Alien or whatever. And apparently he's brilliant in that. Everybody talks about the lighthouse. He's brilliant in that. So why is he not going to be able to nail Batman? I think, as we were saying before we jump streams here, I think the whole aesthetic of the movie looks fantastic. The casting looks fantastic. The grunge looks fantastic, and I think this really does have the sort of serial killer loony vibe. It seems like a very, very, very dark movie, and Batman kind of needs to be dark. I don't think that fans would accept a return to sort of Batman campiness now, especially on the big screen. I just don't think that's what we expect from the character. We've as viewers, we've matured since the sort of 60s and 70s, and that stuff just doesn't fly anymore. And you need to look at somebody like this that is so twisted and tormented, and but by what happened to him in his past, that he takes this weird path that he's gone down. Yeah, the whole thing looks fantastic to me, man. I can't wait to see it. I'm very excited for it. um yeah, it's good. Hopefully it's going to be a good year for movies, at least real world events. Now we're standing, let's hope that all simmers down, please God. But maybe 2022 is going to be a great year, for the most part, and I think this is one of the first movies, one of the first big ones coming out this year. Yeah, can't wait. It's going to be good. I hope it's good. um I don't know if you heard. Now, of course, Matt Reeves is getting pressed about an expanded universe, and could
Yes.
Superman be in that universe? I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Autumn.
Well, I have a lot to say about that as well. And of course, that makes me extremely excited. I'm, pleased as punch to hear anything like that with an expanded universe, extra movies, extra deals, not just in cinema, but also possibly on the small screen and television. In every reiteration of that they can make of any kind of Superman reintroduction, I think it's wonderful. And of course, I want Cavill, but we don't know what's going to happen. And to be honest with you, I have so much to say about this film, the upcoming film, and about Matt Reeves, because Matt Reeves directed, I think it was Cloverfield, and I think he also did the Planet of the Apes films.
No, they were
And the
awesome.
thing, yeah, they were great. And the thing about those films is that they're kind of, intelligent films that with the Planet of the Apes, he couldn't go against the original lore, or
Mm.
else the film just doesn't make any sense. It had to be about humanity and how we treat, other creatures on this planet. And that's what that was completely about. And I think that we're going to get a sense of that tone here in this new film. And I know that the darkness, I do love the darkness of it. I love that, the dourness feeling of it, that, it feels it doesn't quite feel as gritty as I would have liked it to feel, but I think it's on the cusp of being gritty, especially the one that I was going to show, which was um, the scene where they're at the funeral, and perhaps that was the one that really just pulled everything down, because they don't, perhaps it's not even really intended for everyone to see. But
I think someone in
um
chat was saying that there's a review embargo, which is probably why you got slapped there. And
yes,
I think Paul in Long Beach is just saying he's always going to be Cedric Diggory to me. Okay, fine. I still
absolutely.
think he's a good actor.
First of all, I thought Cedric Diggory was hot. So the thing is that for me, like with the female gaze, I can't take my eyes off of Patterson. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's like candy, chocolate, ice cream, cherries, whipped cream,
Hmm.
everything you could possibly imagine on the screen. So it's like a total treat. I'm just loving seeing Patterson up there, throwing on the suit, looking around, just being himself. I can't get enough of that guy. So, the fact that he's playing this role is just absolutely spectacular. And as I said before, I haven't been this excited since Spider-Man. Russ, why haven't I been this excited since Spider-Man? What is it about this film compared to all the other films that have come out since Spider-Man was released that has gotten me so excited more than any other film? What is it about it that seems to be capturing it at a time when people are afraid to go to cinemas? We don't have the availability we have. Why was Batman able to capture that excitement?
Because it feels big. I think that that's the thing about, it feels like this is going to be an event. It feels like this is going to be something really, really special in a way that even No Way Home was not, because that is not new. It's still it's the completion of Tom Holland's high school arc, and we all knew that Toby and Andrew were going to be in it. Everybody knew that. What else can you tell me about the Batman? Yes, the Riddler. Yes, the Penguin. Yes, Catwoman. And what else? Nothing. We don't know. And it feels like, how long has it been since that's happened, that we just don't know what's the story about? There's been hints, but I don't know what's going to happen. And this feels like it's going to be a huge movie. And I think that's this excitement's been bubbling up. And as fans, especially part of the Positive Fandom Network, it's good to get excited about things. And I want someone in the chat pulled us up last week about moaning about Lord of the Rings, and yes, we have to call it as we see it, but 9 times out of 10, you're desperate for stuff to be good. To dial back what we were talking about before, though, I'm not keen on having Superman introduced into this particular universe. I think we've got that already with the DC EU, and or the Snyderverse, whichever road you want to go down. And I think with the aesthetic that Matt Reeves is setting up, you can't then have bright, hopeful Superman that everybody said, "Oh no, Henry Cavill's too this, he's too that." But if you're going to put Superman in this universe, it would be it wouldn't fit with the aesthetic, would it? What I do think would be awesome for this, though, is to have the rest of the Rose Gallery and the non-super powered costumed people. So there was, I wish, and I still hope we get the Batfleck Deathstroke movie, but this seems like the perfect universe for Deathstroke. This seems the perfect universe for a really psychotic Joker. This seems like the universe for a tortured Dick Grayson, or a Jason Todd or something like that. It feels more at home here, where you can really go into that stuff, especially now if they're doing this spin-off show on HBO Max. But as far as Superman and Wonder Woman and all those guys, leave those in the Snyderverse, please, or leave those in the DC expanded universe if we don't get a restore the Snyderverse. But I think that they're doing that thing. For me, this would be sort of like, I don't know, putting curry sauce on your ice cream. It just wouldn't seem to fit. Um, and I think from the stuff that I've read, Matt Reeves himself is almost like being forced to answer these questions and being forced to be he's a little bit coy about it, but I don't think that interests him. But the other stuff would certainly interest me. This sort of grounded take on Batman as they're clearly trying to do here. It's almost like Christian Bale, but not. And having those other villains around, yeah, that would be some cool stuff. I'd like to see that.
You make a lot of good points here. And I do just want to welcome some of the other members that have
Sure.
joined us this morning. Again, of course, for the second time, back to Paul in Long Beach, and Zachara 315. How are you this morning? Tom Jr. Jackson is always my collaborator and moderator, is here
The man, the
with
legend.
us, and the legend. And we are all goof people.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have Paul from Long Beach, who's getting his morning coffee. And Keely Chow, good morning to you again. Mikey Leo, I sure will follow whatever guidelines they asked me to do. They were very kind to send me a message telling me why they stopped the stream this morning. And Rogue Thinker, glad for positive fandom. It's hard to be positive these days, especially with movie TV franchises. Greetings. Well, greetings to you, Rogue Thinker. And Tom Jr. Jackson says, yes, that funeral scene looked amazing. And of course, you guys go ahead and watch it on your own because we can't show it here. And as well as Terrier again. Hi, Terrier. I actually don't get that he is so attractive. He isn't to me, but maybe I'm the weirdo. I'd rather make out with Robert Downey Jr. And that's okay. That's okay.
Well, you're only human. You're only human, mate. I mean, we all would.
Yes. And Rogue Thinker goes on again to say, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not, he's just talking about nodding and being awake. So, but just wanted to thank you all for coming back. And you, Terry also started to talk about Lautner, who is also equally gorgeous. Mm-hmm. If he played any roles in this, I would be all over that too. But, so I think that in regards to Patterson being cast in this, you're right. It's time for him to take over this role and perhaps many other roles. Maybe we'll start to see him in even more aggressive kind of like Tom Clancy sorts of things, in addition, away from the superhero stuff. So I think that he could probably go even further with his badassery. What did you think about Chloe Kravitz? I hope that's her name. Zoe Kravitz in this film. Were you happy with the
genius bit of casting, as I said before? For me, it seems very much like that Matt Reeves has delved back into his childhood. He's obviously a little bit younger than myself, so he's probably looking back at the 90s and thinking about all the cool shit that he had from the 90s. I'm not saying this is going to be a 90s movie set in the 90s or anything like that, but it just seems to have that grungy aesthetic, and I thought it was really smart, pulling in someone like Zoe Kravitz. I mean, she's insanely hot and all the rest of it, but she kind of looks the part. She looks like she's been sort of cut out of the Batman Year One comic and stuck on the screen. I know this is Batman Year Two, but she looks the part to me. I think she's going to pull it off. From what I've seen so far, again, she seems to be really, really great in this. I think as far as the acting goes, it looks like Pattinson's going to be carrying the biggest load on his shoulders, but look, he's backed up by Andy Serkis. I mean, that guy. I kind of like. I'm looking kind of like this take that they're doing on Alfred as well, a sort of Cockney hard man, like sort of ex SAS soldier bodyguard of the Waynes that's now found himself in this position. That having to bring up the younger son. I don't know if this is going to be as a paternal relationship as Batman normally has with Alfred. This seems to be more like, your drunk hard uncle sort of aesthetic on Batman. So, or take on Alfred, I should say. So again, I'm looking forward. It's different. It looks different. It doesn't look like we're covering the same ground, much the same way that Affleck didn't cover the same ground. His Batman was a villain. He was a tortured, psycho, in those movies. And this is again, we're going down a different road with Pattinson. Excited to see it. Zoe Kravitz, yeah, absolutely. I don't think they put a foot wrong with their casting. Let's just put it that way.
Absolutely. And Bloodsport One says, "Hi, folks. R loves Preacher and Matt Reeves. I sure do. Bloodsport number one. You know I do.
That's the best name in the business, Bloodsport. I love it.
Absolutely." And Mario Lopez says, "Hi, everyone. Hello to
man.
you, Mario Lopez." And it's very interesting. I just can't say enough about this upcoming film, Russ.
Mhm.
Kind of getting back to the scenes. And last night I was talking to on Midnight Musings to Robert about the way that the scenes were even shot and how so many practical effects are being used in this film, and how that really might make the film stand out. It did kind of have a Burton-esque feel initially, but
Mm.
these really very specific practical effects take the Burton-esque fantasy thing out of it, and it becomes very realistic to me in the sense of these are what the actual stunts actually look like. And
Mm.
so that adds a certain level of authenticity for me to what we're seeing. Even some of the angle views and the lighting, like it's kind of like a little bit lower lighting in some cases, and we see a lot of reflections off of the bat suit, off of Zoe Kravitz's outfit. And we're meant to be looking at these scenes in a particular way, maybe a little different from what we've seen in the past. What do you think about the idea of these practical effects and kind of trying to edit this movie in a different way and show us these different angles? Are we getting a unique experience from Matt Reeves? And what else do you think we have to look forward to in this film?
Well, this seems to be the noir take on Batman. And people often talk about Batman being the world's greatest detective, and that's hardly ever explored to any great depth. Even in the Snyderverse, who knows what will happen when we see the Batfleck movie. But this aspect of Batman seems to be played up by Matt Reeves because we haven't really seen that before. So this looks like much more of a detective film with detecting going on. To the aesthetic, it's very orange. I kind of like it. I've never really seen that before. Batman's normally black or blue, isn't he? Um, Now we got this kind of dirty orange look to it. As for the practical effects, well, um, I'm looking forward to seeing how it stacks up against my favorite version of Batman. Affleck was brutal, but a lot of that stuff was done on sound stages, and rightly so, because that's clearly a superhero universe. You got Superman flying around, you've got Wonder Woman flying around. So yeah, while the setting of the Snyderverse was realistic, it's not real life, and this seems to be going for a real life. This is what would happen. It's almost calling back to Christian Bale again. Like Batman in this one, Pattinson has developed his own Batmobile, which is just a souped up muscle car. So already, even unlike the Bat Tank, the Tumbler that Christian Bale had, this is even more really worldy than that. This is a guy that's building his own shit, right? So it all looks like you could see that car driving down the road. It would be strange, but you could see it. So yeah, um, it. I remember Pattinson was trolling people about not having worked out. Well, clearly he has worked out, and that was all a bunch of crap. Um, but yeah, practical effects are always good, um, because they have a depth to them. A sort of, it's almost like they're tactile. You can sort of tell uh, that it's real. And with CGI, oftentimes it looks fake. It doesn't have that weight to it that a real life effects, if that's not too much of an oxymoron. But you know what I mean. If it's not practical, if it's entirely digital, you can tell. I've always liked the mix of digital and practical. I think that stuff's really really great. Yeah, what can I tell you? I mean, this guy is a brilliant director. To talk about Planet of the Apes, yeah, he did stick to the spirit of that, but he completely modernized it. You know, like guy trying to find the cure for Alzheimer's, and this happens and that. You know, it was the same but different, and that is the watchword of Hollywood, isn't it? Give me the same but different. I think he's going to smash it out of the park. Well, put it this way, right? I will be hugely disappointed if this is crap, and if I come out of there going, "Ugh," you know. But I can't see it. I can't see it. The trailers looked too good. The casting looks too perfect. The aesthetic seems it's like The Crow. It's almost like, you know, you could see
Yes.
Eric Draven
Yes.
walking past in the background. That's what I was thinking. It just suddenly hit me. It's like The Crow, and The
Yes, it
Crow was
is.
all sorts of awesome.
Yes, it really does have that feeling to it, and it has that bleakness, certainly. It
Hmm.
also has that reflective quality that I was talking about off of the crow's outfit. You remember how it
Mm,
had kind of a low light feeling, but you
yeah,
could see the reflection off the black suit, and it was very deliberate. And, you know, I guess you could even argue, I don't know, I can't say I'm an expert on Brandon Lee's physical build, but it seems somewhat similar to that of Patterson's physical build. I could be wrong, so guys don't, you know, if I'm wrong, you can say so. But it
I don't
seems
think
like
you
they have
are.
sort
You
of
know,
like a
they both look
slender,
very swimmerish, is what they look
yes,
like. They're very long, very lean, and yes, yeah, sort of long body and all that sort of thing. Yeah, no, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Bloodsport here says The Thing 1982 with all practical effects that still holds up to this day. Yeah, the one thing I was amazed about in the Thing, which I found out listening to the director's commentary, you know, the bit where they're using the paddles on the guy's chest, and the thing opens up, and they that effect was done by using a real amputee, and the practical effect was they put a mask on the amputee, um, to make him look like the actor. So the guy with having his arms bitten off doesn't actually have any arms, and they did all the blood effects like that. So he's a real amputee with a face mask on to look like the actor that did the paddles.
wow. I didn't know that, and that is great to know, of
Hmm.
course. One other thing I wanted to mention, and I
Hmm.
do want to get your opinion on this, Russ, is that you know, some of those scenes where we see Batman fighting, you know, Zoe Kravitz, of course, and they're, you know, it's a playful fight. You know, no one's going to die in this little fight that they have where he kind of pins her down,
Hmm.
almost like he's a cat and he's pinning her down. You know, it's very funny. Even she looks like she has super, like she's very long, and we know she's a very petite, probably about 5 foot tall woman.
Hmm.
But the way that it's filmed, she has a sense of elongation when she's kind of, you know, kicking her legs at Batman, and, you know, he's kind of like just pushing it off, you know, because she's not nearly as strong as he is. But the point that I'm making is I'm kind of very surprised at how they were able to achieve that effect even on someone who's so small. You know, and just the sense of reach that she has, it just looked very, very long and quite extensive. And hey, good morning, Lorena. Good morning, and thank you for stopping by. I hope you're having a wonderful morning this morning, and thank you for joining us. I'm just so surprised at how extended she looked. What do you think about that? I mean, did you get that sense that, you know, we're going to be seeing people, regardless of their height, let's say,
Hmm.
shown in ways that we haven't really seen people shown before? I mean,
Yeah,
what do you think?
this is the foreplay fight, isn't it? You know,
Yes,
right? This is like sort of like costume vigilante sex fight. It's, you know, you can again, you were talking about casting earlier on. There's some chemistry bubbling up between. I think they had it off in real life, didn't they? There was a rumor going around that they had sex on the Batmobile. Probably did, and why not?
that
They're both
is a
beautiful.
rumor.
Yes, it's a rumor. It cannot be confirmed or denied, but why not? They're both gorgeous people, and they're both young.
Yes.
So go for it, guys. Yeah, well, you say that as a bit of an old codger now. You know, I grew up in watching Bruce Lee movies, and Bruce Lee wasn't the tallest guy in the world, but you know, he looked long because you know of how good he was at martial arts and all the rest of it. I couldn't tell you how they achieved that effect on this particular film, but yeah, I think she has to be an almost match for him as a combatant. But I kind of like that. You know, he's winning. that's not something we see a lot of the time. I know a lot of people complain about the 100-pound girl beating up the compliant stuntmen and all the rest of it, but this seems to be, you know, he is a ninja-esque sort of fighter here, and he's toying with her in that fight. It's, and then he just sort of flips her down, and gets on top of her, and yeah, and we don't know what's going to happen next, so I can only
No,
imagine.
I just like hearing you actually verbally say that. I love it. This is so good. I just want to say, Lorena is a very dear friend of mine. Guys, check out Lorena Creole's channel on YouTube. She's also on Twitch as well. I do Monday nights. Toxic Femininity with Lorena. Lorena has fantastic programming on her channel. Please go ahead and check it out. And we're also doing a Reacher series where we're doing a watch party and then commenting afterwards. And we also have another show that Lorena and I are doing, which is coming out soon. So stay tuned. You're going to love it. And thank you for stopping by this morning, Lorena. Paul in Long Beach says, foreplay fight sounds like a Spice Girls cover band or an opening act. Absolutely. Paul in Long Beach. I just love that foreplay fight. As far as I'm concerned, I want more of it. I want to see a salacious love scene between the two of them. I want it to be no holds barred. I want them to crank up the sexual, deliciousness in this film. I want to be like, wow, that was incredible. I just want to be like shocked in the seats as I'm sitting there in the theater. And I think that it would be nice to see something like that. Terrier says foreplay fight always turns into makeup sex. Absolutely. I want them to have as much makeup sex as they can, because if it is a film noir, Russ, isn't she going to betray the Batman?
Maybe she's the femme fatale, maybe, but I can't. I think she would more rather let him down, or something. I can't see there being an out and out betrayal, because they're obviously looking for sequels, and Catwoman has to be part of that universe. So if she does betray him, she'll probably see the error of her ways and come and save him, perhaps at the end, or pitch in at the end. Who knows, man? I don't know. I don't know. And that is the great thing about this film. I haven't got a fucking Scooby-Doo what's going to happen in this film, and I like that, and I like that it hasn't been spoiled. Like, I think I mentioned last week, we were talking about Peacemaker, and there were clowns on the internet. They spoiled that moment in the show, and I was so upset, because it gets me in my heart. I love that. I love Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, all that sort of thing, and to have that moment of joy just taken away by some dickhead on Facebook, I was. He got banned from the group actually for doing it, but still.
Mm-hmm.
But for this, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to know what's going to happen. I can't wait.
Well, I want to say at this point, first of all, welcome Ashley Chase. Ashley,
Hey,
we
Ashley.
can't wait to see the Batman either. We're excited, as you are too. And Russ, I do just want to take this moment to say to everybody who's out there, guys, be kind. Don't spoil it for your friends if you see it early. Have some courtesy and kindness to one another. Don't go ahead and send photographs that spoil it for everybody. Stay positive. You can still enjoy it even if you know something, a little secret. So from what we've all experienced, what you've experienced, Russ, and where you get that one photo and you're like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, look, it's no shock that there are dickheads on on the internet, right? But I was upset by that one. But yeah, we got Outcast Creative. Hello, guys.
Hey, and Outcast Creative, good morning. Hey guys, Star Wars Cruise. Why would they allow people to film it? Feels like that ruins it for everyone. We're an interview with actor Phil Davis coming soon. Our stage play about Gina Carano. Well, that is exciting. Outcast Creative.
What's going on
First
with
of all,
Gina Carano? I don't understand.
a stage play about her,
Awesome.
which would be amazing. She certainly has been a huge influence on the fandom and a huge influence on, especially if you follow Star Wars. And this is very interesting. We're going to talk a little bit about Star Wars. I got to tell you, there's a lot to talk about, but I'm still talking about some more stuff about Batman. And thank you, Outcast Creative. We always love having you here on Sunday Brunch. Terrier Tiberius Monk says, if you're into Batman, please do check out the interactive games by Telltale. One has a fantastic arc for Catwoman, heartbreaking.
Okay.
Russ, have you played the games, the Batman
No,
games?
no, I heard about these a
Is it
little while
Arkham
ago.
Knights or something like that?
Don't know, but I just did want to just dial it back a little bit, guys. Please do check out the Outcast Creative podcast. It's really, really good. If you're interested in making films and being in that industry or learning about the industry, these guys are actual. They run classes, they do everything. They're based in London, I think, and all around the United Kingdom. But I watched the last one that they did with Jason Fleming was brilliant, and I will certainly be checking out some more of it. And yeah, excited to see what you're doing with Gina. I'm actually working with a director called David Hackle at the moment, who just directed a film with Gina in it. So there's a bit of a Carano connection, which also sounds like a Spice Girl song or perhaps an opening act. But there we go.
I love this, and that's fantastic news. Certainly do want to check out the Outcast Creative. I'm going to go to their channel and website and find out more just to improve my channel. And for those of you who are creatives out there, definitely check out their channel. And Russ, your news sounds equally exciting working with this director. That's always good news to
He's a
hear.
lovely bloke, is David. He's really, really nice. I really like him. But
Good.
he's probably not watching, so I'm being genuine, you know.
And we also have Dwayne Olson, and he says positivity is up and running on a cloudy day. We certainly are positive here, Dwayne Olson. And how could you not be positive with Patterson as the new Batman?
Absolutely.
Laying down the law, doing all sorts of fantastic moves. And Russ, I did want to talk a little bit about the fact that he has a car that looks like the kind of car, I mean, when I was in high school, I knew a bunch of other boys who were in high school who were like kind of making their cars custom, these custom cars.
Hmm.
This car looks like an ordinary person made it. It's not sort of like this sleek design kind of model. This thing looks badass. It looks like if it rode down your block, it could ride over all the other cars. What do
Mm.
you know about this car that the character has made himself?
Just that it's a souped up muscle car. The person you want to ask about that actually is Mr. H Reviews. When the first trailer for this came out, because Mr. H is a huge car nut. I think he's got a second channel where he just talks about cars and fixes up his own cars and all this kind of thing. And he was squeeing with joy over this car. So it looks like it's very, very grounded. It looks like I'm trying to remember because it was a while ago when I heard that when he was talking about it. But it's not bullshit car. It's kind of real car. It could potentially be done given the skills and the resources. So yeah, look, as I say, they seem to be trying to ground it in a different way to Christian Bale. Um, I'm very, very excited for this, and as I say, it doesn't seem so far to overtly promoting any message other than this film is going to be quite dark, a little bit twisted, and extremely as violent as they can get away with. A little bit disappointed that it's a PG-13, although Matt Reeves has said he's pushing that to the limits. He's also said that there isn't a magical cut of this. This is his cut. So that's interesting. And hey, Scotty R37 there saying hello. Yeah. Uh, what can I say? I think we are all looking forward to it, and it looks like it's going to deliver. There'll be nobody more disappointed than me if it doesn't. But as I say, on the evidence of what we've seen so far, it's literally the opposite of Lord of the Rings. Because on the evidence of what we've seen so far, that's going to suck. But this doesn't look like it's going to suck. We could be wrong, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I have every confidence that this is going to blow us away. The other thing that I was going to say is, what was I going to say? I have some notes here. Now, from what I understand, and this is the last I'm going to say on the film, clearly it's a dark film. We know that
Mm,
it's a dark
mm.
film, and that's what we want, to have that feeling. According to Matt Reeves, he says that he drew inspiration from the comics, specifically The Long Halloween.
Yes.
And he talks about early in the career with several villains at the same time, or looking at the mental states. Are you familiar with The Long Halloween? And if so, what is your take on that?
I'm familiar with it, and I recently, funny enough, watched the DC adaptation, which I didn't think was so bad. Everybody sort of, it was an animated movie. DC, whatever you think of their cinematic universes, they smash it out of the park every single time with their animated movies, as far as I'm concerned. With one or two rare exceptions, I really really enjoyed their animated adaptation. The comic, of course, is a work of near genius, I would say. And if they're using that as a basis, why not? I think that is a good place to start, and it's certainly a place that people haven't started before. I was kind of hoping they were going to do Court of the Owls, because I thought Court of the Owls was, the beginning Batman of the New 52. I thought that was absolutely brilliant, but who knows? Maybe they'll do that down the road. Although I do think that might be a Snyderverse one. That might be a better one for a mini series or a TV series, because there's so much to the Court of the Owls. Trying to that DC did an animated movie of that, and it was great, but it's so much, and there's so much mythology around the Court of the Owls. Sorry, I'm supposed to be talking about Long Halloween. Yes, good place to start. Excited, yeah, man. What's
You
not to
can
love?
talk about whatever you want, Russ. This is our show.
This is
You
so
can
true.
go ahead and go off on a tangent, and talk more. We're just enjoying everything we can about this highly anticipated film, and this is part of the enjoyment, is having those speculation moments where you thought they might be going. It's important too. So this absolutely, it's great to hear your opinions, and some of the direction that you thought they might have gone versus this direction that we're seeing. And I did kind of look up the Halloween comics, and looked at the plot, and it is very similar to, let's say, what I'm finding or noticing as they describe the plot for this particular film. So it's going to be fantastic, and I love it even more knowing that it's already from a comic, which is why we love the character and this series. So
Yeah,
that's exciting to me. And the final thing I'm going to say about the car is, I grew up with so many guys who would get a decent car, and when I say decent, I mean, like what they could afford, but then they would put all these parts on the cars that would be more than what they spent for the actual car.
yeah,
And you
yeah.
know, I just kind of love that. And it feels like this kind of car to me. This looks like, he had a fantastic base, and then, he's got all these souped up parts that he put on it so that it's even more badass. I think it's definitely something kind of refreshing to look at in this universe. And it's going to be, I think the car is going to surprise us too. So Dennis Mason, hello Dennis Mason,
Hi,
says,
Dennis.
I will be the first to watch the spoiler theater grab video on YouTube. And he also goes on to, and Dwayne Olson says, careful, Russ, I resemble that sometimes. So I'm not quite sure what he's referring to, but
I don't know.
and the Outcast Creative has another comment. It's called The Tweet. That's the name of I'm assuming, either the film or the play that they're working on. It's about the firing of an actress named Nina Serrano from a show called Galaxy Wars. Well, that is very creative, and certainly I'll have to check that out.
Is it going to be on? Is it going to be on in Clapham or somewhere like that? I don't know. That's one for the Outcast creative, I guess. But that's going off a little bit of a tangent. I'll definitely go see it
No.
if you're doing it in Clapham or Richmond or somewhere like that. I'd love to go and see it.
Excellent. And you definitely have to let us know how,
Hmm.
if you do go to Clapham, let us know how that turned out. Dennis Mason goes on to say, because I don't possess the proper papers to enter. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, thank you for letting us know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, understood, mate. Yeah.
And he is avoiding trailers for Batman. Don't want to know anything about it all going in. Well, I can't show them, so maybe I ought to avoid them, of course. And Terrier is kind enough to tell us that they're two different games. I thought these were the Arkham Knight ones, but I could be wrong. Two different games: Batman, the Telltale series, and I love Telltale games. I love, because they did. I think they did the Walking Dead series, but I could be wrong.
Mhm.
And the Enemy Within episodes 1 through 5 that sounds amazing as well. And thank you, Terrier. You know, I always appreciate and I love seeing you here. And the Outcast Creative says, thanks for the plug. That's most kind. We shall have to have you on as guest co-host sometime. Well, we look forward to that in the future. And we so appreciate your kindness with that. We will definitely take you up on that offer, Outcast Creative.
Thanks, man.
And Scotty R37 says, I am fearful of the new Riddler. Russ, what do you know about the new Riddler?
He's a nutter, and I quite like the idea of him being a nutter. I saw actually, Scotty. I saw you say earlier on you prefer a dapper Riddler. I There you go. I don't think that they're going down that road at all. Look, man, when I first saw this, and you just heard the of the gaffer tape and all that sort of thing, I thought, what? Who's this? Oh my god! I can't agree, Scotty. I'm afraid. I don't think a dapper Riddler would fit in this in this aesthetic. I could be wrong. But I kind of like the idea that this guy is a nutcase, a complete psycho, and they haven't lent on the Joker. It's like this is the Riddler, and the Riddler's always been, but the last portrayal of Riddler was old Jim Carrey, wasn't it? And that was like completely over the top. So I like the idea of this guy who's a genius pitting himself against another genius. It is kind of like the serial killer leaving clues for the detectives. I mean, this has happened. This has happened in real life. Taunting them. We had it here well, kind of had it here in Great Britain with the Yorkshire Ripper. There was a guy that used to send in fake tapes to the police bragging about it. Turned out it wasn't the Ripper, but I'm sure that happened in the old. I think the Zodiac Killer used to do it in the States. So it's an interesting take, and the idea that the Riddler is also a very smart guy pitting his wits against another very smart guy. So you've got maybe a physical battle, but the Batman would probably win. The mental battle, well, that's where the stakes are at. So yeah. So I don't
Yes.
agree, Scotty. Sorry, mate.
Well, Dwayne Oldson says, agree with Russ. DCAU is the best part of DC and has been for a decade.
Oh, and more, Dwayne. I mean, you've got to go back to where it all started for Batman, if you like, the Burton movies, and then the Batman animated series that took on that aesthetic and then ran with it, but then had so much longer to develop that character. And then, of course, you had Superman, which did prove you could do dark and gritty and bright and hopeful in the same universe. And then it all culminated with Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and I think that was back in the 90s, right? Or certainly back in the 2000s. So we had that. Then we had a number of standalone movies. The first one was Superman Doomsday, which was okay. And then they really hit their stride. I thought with the Wonder Woman movie, I just thought that was fucking chef's kiss. That animated movie was so good. The music, the casting, everything about that was, and they've just been on an upward trajectory ever since. I really enjoyed the fact that they took on the New 52. I think that there is a cycle of 10 or 12 movies that all take place, that are all interconnected. If you go online, you can watch them in order, basically. And yeah, you're absolutely right, mate. They have absolutely killed it on the animated stage. Some of their standalone movies, I would say, not so much. But then some, like Wonder Woman was a standalone, and that was really great. I was just trying to think of one I watched recently that wasn't so awesome. It'll come back to me. But yeah, no, 9 times out of 10, you can rely on the DC animated universe for pure quality. Yeah.
Well, that's good to know too, and absolutely wonderful that you can watch, those other reiterations of the IP as well. And the Outcast creatives do say, "Cheers! It's a stage play, London, October."
I'll be there, mate.
Um, and you do have to let us know how it is, Russ. And Tom Jr. Jackson is confirmed with me. They did The Walking Dead, which was Telltale Games. I love those role playing games. And Back to the Future as well. Thank you so much, Tom, as always. Um, And so, the final thing that I was going to say is, I know when I see it, I am going to make some kind of reaction. It's going to be non-spoiler, and
Mhm.
I'm probably not going to do any kind of spoilers until we meet again. I don't know whether we're going to do spoilers on this next Sunday's um, Sunday brunch, because there's still going to be a lot of people who still want to see the film. So I may keep away from that. Um,
I think we can. I think if we're going to talk spoilers, we just need to give. We did this last week with Peacemaker, didn't we? With that moment, with that particular moment in the show, which I think probably everybody's seen and heard about by now. But we gave people a countdown, um, and I think that's fair enough, especially if you run the ticker tape down the bottom. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Well, then people are Batman spoiler. Scotty, I've not actually seen Gotham. I couldn't get into it. I tried twice now to get into Gotham, and um, I don't know. It just maybe I'm gonna try. I will try to give it another go because I heard good things about it, but yeah, it just didn't grab me.
and one more message from the Outcast Creative. Great two-part drama series about the Ripper tapes on YouTube starring Alun Armstrong. The Hunt for the Yorkshire Ripper. Highly recommend it. So we'll definitely have to check that out. I love anything that has to do with Jack the Ripper, anything at all.
Well, this is the
So
Yorkshire Ripper. He was a serial killer in England in the 1980s, up north. What's it called? The Hunt for the Yorkshire Ripper. Yeah. And what happened was there was a guy that used to send in tapes to police saying that he was the Yorkshire Ripper, but he wasn't. He was just like some guy, essentially a very sick individual trolling the police, making up stuff. And he was from the guy who was doing the trolling was from the northeast of England. He was a Geordie or a Mackham. I couldn't tell you which one he was. But the Yorkshire Ripper himself was from Yorkshire. Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper.
yeah, that's very interesting. I definitely have to check that out. I mean, I also like From Hell, which is one of the first comics I ever purchased, and it kind of deals with the Ripper, or
That's Jack the Ripper. Yeah.
yeah. So I love anything that has to do with that as well. So I certainly do want to check that out. Mikey Leto says, I heard so much crap about The Kingsman, and I absolutely enjoyed it and was surprised to boot. Mikey Leto, I have watched The Kingsman myself, and I loved it. Russ, have you seen that film
No,
recently?
I haven't. I saw the first one. I didn't see this. And I was kind of okay with the first one. Um, it not a super fan, I'm afraid. So no, I've yet to see the second one. I certainly haven't seen this one. But from what I've heard about this one, it's a prequel, isn't it? And I've heard all sorts of good things about it, and a lot of people have said that it weaves in a lot of historical fact in there, but the sort of the way that the plot transpires seems to have made these historical events happen, or it plays into the historical events, which I always think is quite good fun. And from what I hear, it doesn't pull any punches in terms of like the emotional weight of the movie. Things happen that you don't expect are going to happen. So yes, maybe I'll check it out this evening. My daughter's coming to stay with me tonight, so normally we end up watching Titans, but we'll see.
Yeah, I have actually been watching Titans, Russ, and I have been enjoying it very much.
Oh,
And
cool.
am I correct in saying that there is going to be a season 4?
That's already been greenlit. It's like it's a stealth hit. Is the Titans? It's gloriously poorly plotted, but and I think I said last week, and every time I talk about it, I don't care that it doesn't make a lot of sense. I just that every single person in that show is absolutely committed to being Red Hood or Robin or Nightwing or Starfire, whoever they happen to be. It just embraces the DC, the violent DC aesthetic, if you like, and I love it. I can't get enough of it. I just think it's so good. And the guy Brendan Thwaites that they got to play Dick Grayson, um, many of us Zacharites are sort of weeping that he couldn't have been transported into is this in the Snyderverse? We don't know is the answer to that question, because the Titans often make reference to Bruce and Diana and things like that. So you just don't know if it is the style. It would be so great if it was. Um, DC movies should never try to imitate Marvel movies. Yes, no, I agree. I absolutely agree. They shit the bed with Batman versus Superman. They should never have done that. That film was at Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, way ahead of its time, and trying to fit an auteur like Snyder into a cookie cutter uh, shape, which Marvel movies are, as brilliant as they are. There's nothing wrong with them, but they're very formulaic and they deliver exactly what you want. It's like McDonald's. I love it and I want to eat it, but once I've done with it, I don't think about it again. So yeah, Mario, you and I are on the same page with that one, mate.
Well, I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed talking about just even speculating, just for the past hour, speculating about the new Batman film. And
Mhm.
I can't say that about a lot of films, talking about it for an hour. And I could probably talk even longer about this film. And Mikey Lito says that I could actually go for a Nightwing film. So could I, Mikey Lito.
Mhm.
Um, uh, but we do have other topics that I'm going to move on to now. Did you have any final comments that you wanted to say about the new Batman film, Russ?
Um, no, I think we covered the gamut there. I see Scotty like BVS. Yes, I like that one too. A psychosexual drama. Yeah, Nightwing, the best butt in the DC universe, apparently. So they tell me. Yeah, I think we covered Batman. Looking forward to it, and I guess we'll have a lot to talk about next weekend. Although I might be late next weekend, as I said to you, because I'm going down south to the end of England, so I have to make it back in time for the show. So I will keep you posted on that.
Okay, well, we can always move the show to an 11:30 time slot. It will be announced, so you guys will know what time the show will be next week. But have no fear, we will have a show next week after we have seen Batman for certain. I assure you. And so, moving on to the next topic, has to do really with the George R. Martin prequel series.
Right. So this struck me the other day. This has completely gone under the wire, hasn't it? And you remember for 10 years or 8 years or whatever it was, all people ever talked about was Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones, Game of
Yes.
Thrones, Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones. And then we
Yes.
had the shit show that was the last couple of seasons, and the last season of Game of Thrones. And I wasn't a huge fan. Okay, I watched all of it, but I wouldn't sit in between seasons rewatching it. And I'd be sat there for the first couple of episodes of season 5 or 6 or whatever it happens. You go, hang on a minute, wasn't he dead? Didn't she go off with it? I can't remember. And it would take a while to get into it. But I know that there were people, absolute obsessive fans of Game of Thrones. I cannot imagine what it must be like to, well, I can because I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, but what it must have been like getting so excited for that last season of Game of Thrones and then been served up that steaming pile of shite. So this was it, House of the Dragon, as just with all of the sort of furore about Lord of the Rings and everyone sort of wailing and gnashing their teeth about that has gone on. House of Dragons has just sort of slid in and nobody's really talking about it. So I watched the trailer and yeah, it's a Game of Thrones trailer, and it was all fine, and it looks like that they're sticking to their Game of Thrones playbook, and that all looks brilliant. What I was surprised about, however, were the comments on the video. I don't know if this is jiggery pokery by the moderators or whatever it was, but there seemed to be fans and loyal fans at that are saying, well, season 8 was crap. I'm willing to give this a chance. So that it seems to be still a little bit of love for Game of Thrones, which surprises me. Now, as someone who didn't have a huge vested interest in Game of Thrones, I'm willing to give this a shot because, okay, I was disappointed with the end of it, but it wasn't like you know how I take the Snyderverse stuff like really, really personally. Okay, this one I didn't take personally. It's like, okay, well, that was shit. It's not my universe. I'm sorry for the fans, but I'll take it or leave it. So I'm quite looking forward to this because I think that Game of Thrones can do what Lord of the Rings can't do. And what I don't know, and I'd like to ask you, maybe you do know, who are the showrunners? Is it the same guys, that are doing this that did the original Game of Thrones, or is it a different crew who will have heard of, they will know what the reaction was like to that, to the end of of Game of Thrones itself. They must have learned. They must have learned from this, and they're like, okay, well, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it properly.
Well, it says House of Dragon was co-created by Martin and Condell. The pilot script that landed the series order was written by Condell. He serves as co-showrunner alongside Game of Thrones veteran Sopichnik, who will direct the pilot and additional episodes.
But is it Weiss and Benioff did the other? Were they the guys that were behind the first one? I actually can't remember now, because they were the next big thing, weren't they? And they were so desperate. This is why people were bent out of shape with them, wasn't it? Because they were so desperate to kick Game of Thrones into touch to become the new Star Wars people, and then they got fired from that as well. So I don't know what those guys. I mean, who cares? They're laughing all the way to the bank anyway. But I don't know what they're on at the moment, creatively. But yeah, forget them. Yes, this looks like it's going to be really, really good. What we got, Outcast Creative. I think the trailer for the prequel looks way better than Amazon Lord of the Rings. We agree on that. The key difference is the aesthetic. This looks set in that universe. It feels familiar. Plus Matt Smith. Yeah, absolutely. He's, I do like him as an actor. Actually, he's pretty good. Not as big as a star as he perhaps should be. He feels like he should be at Benedict Cumberbatch level, and he just hasn't. He seems to have picked the wrong projects or not had the exposure that he needs. But yeah, canny actor, brilliant.
Absolutely. And they seem to be very confident, and it's a 10 episode series. And wasn't there some issue with R.R. Martin completing some other books and tales, and he hadn't completed it, and some fans were a little upset with him for not finishing books. Am I incorrect in saying that, Russ?
No, you're not. I think this is Game of Thrones. So where Game of Thrones started running into problems is when they ran out of source material and decided they were going to do it themselves. And I have some sympathy with that. I can't imagine what it must be like trying to complete somebody else's story, and that somebody else not been very prescriptive until the point you do something that they don't like, and then they're prescriptive, which I think is what happened with Game of Thrones. This is why I was asking you actually about the crew that are behind this one. They must have learned, and they look, they've got more money than God as well, right? So they must be paying writers, good writers. This seems to have been planned out, or it must have been planned out. I mean, how long has it been since Game of Thrones finished now? A fair while. This has been bubbling up ever since then. I don't know how much involvement R.R. Martin has had with this, other than sort of turning up and going, yeah, that looks good, and then disappearing off to his log cabin to not write anymore. And I wonder if that is going to be a good thing for this particular show, because it seems to me that even the most loyal R.R. Martin fans are pissed off with R.R. Martin because he's not delivered. And you might say, well, he's worth millions of dollars. Why should why should he deliver? Because I think as a creator, if you're going to make a promise, you need to finish on that. Yeah, Mikey, maybe he did, but you have a responsibility, I think, to people that have paid you to live the lifestyle that you wanted to live. Living your absolute dream here. We'd all like to be full-time writers and not have day jobs to go to and everything like that. Well, some people achieve that, right? You owe them. You owe them the courtesy of finishing what you started, because they put you where you are. That's what I think. I remember when I published my first book, that and I was doing something else, and the publisher wrote to me and he said, "How's a sequel coming along?" I'm like, "What fucking sequel? I'm not writing a sequel." And he's like, "Oh, Russ, you got to do a sequel." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll do a sequel then." So that's perhaps that's just my own personal bias on that. But I think, no, dude, you started it. You need to finish it and stop jerking off with blogs and whatever else he's doing, and just get down there and write the story.
I just want to answer this. Ashley Chase, hi Ashley Chase, wants to know, do I have a favorite Batman? And I would say it's a tie between Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton. So those are my two, and maybe Patterson will become my new favorite Batman. So who knows? Um, and I know that Mario Lopez was saying that if HBO was smart, they would invest their money to correct the last season of Game of Thrones and even make more seasons. Then they if they corrected that, people would watch more seasons. I'm sure of it.
Mm.
And he feels that that would create an incredible amount of excitement, greater than the Zack Snyder Justice League, um, maybe. And also, the Outcast Creative says, I agree. You have made a moral contract with your dedicated fan base who have purchased your books, which have made you very rich to complete the story which you started. So, but Mikey Lito says, exactly what promise is that? Did he make? So I think since people just were buying the books, they
Well,
expected a conclusion
coming
to the
soon,
story.
part 7 was the promise that you made. And I think what people are bent out of shape with is that you're waiting for the conclusion of this epic saga that you started 10 years ago, and there's all these other projects that you're involved with, and all people want you to do is write a 300-page novel, and anyone can write a 300-page novel. It's not that hard to do, especially given all the time and resources that man has. So yeah, I mean, look, Mikey, if you think it's okay for him to go, fuck it, I can't be bothered, then that's absolutely fine. But as Outcast Creative are saying, I think it's a moral contract. It's kind of like George Lucas, finishing The Empire Strikes Back and going, fuck it, I'm going to do Indiana Jones and never returning to that story again. How pissed off would people be? So, well, what happened? Well, I'm your father. What? And that's the end of the story. People are going to be annoyed, and rightly so. And I think that's where George R. Martin is getting into a little bit of trouble. Oh, you're kidding? Okay.
Well, you had us, Mikey Lito. And Mikey Lito says that Adam West is his favorite, or at least I believe that's what he's saying. I agree. Adam West was great. Terrier Tiberius Monk says, speaking on OG Keaton, I got a quarter scale Keaton Batman figure a little while ago. So large, so intimidating. Gosh, that sounds like an amazing figure. Terrier, and I certainly hope you show some pictures of that on the Post Geek Singularity website on the Brrrr Network, so we can all see that, how cool that looks. And Dwayne Olson says George R.R. Martin is never going to finish his series. He already has the FY, which means FU, money, right? And if he dies in the series unfinished, he's the genius of legend who could never complete his legendary potential. I think he's finished it, but he's not going to share it. That's what I think. I think
tell you what, Dwayne, I tell you what, maybe if we're lucky, Amazon will come along and they can write the novel that George R.R. Martin could never write, just like they can write the novel that Tolkien could never write, because there's some smart dudes at Amazon, right?
And
Meow.
Tom Jr. Jackson says Adam West followed by Keaton. And also, it's interesting that we're talking about these new developments with it, and going forward with the story, regardless of where he may or may not be in his state of writing or completing the series for Game of Thrones. People are excited for this new series, and
Yeah, I
so
think so. Yeah.
I think it's very interesting, and I think it also goes to show you that for a writer like him, which I'm sure the words just emanate from him at any moment in his writing. I'm
Yeah, but
confident.
I think the point is how much hands-on uh involvement has he had with this, and I'm led to believe very, very little. And I rather think that the less that he's involved with this, the better it will be for that particular project, because writing a book isn't like writing a screenplay or a set of screenplays or teleplays. It's a completely different thing. And I just think they must have learned, mind you, it's Warner Brothers, so you never know with Warner Brothers, but they must have learned from what happened before, and they must have got some good people with a solid arc that isn't, in their minds at least, going to disappoint. Whereas I think with Weiss and Benioff and the very obvious, yeah, well, we know we're just going to shorten the series by about 5 episodes, and we're going to make them all epic, and they're going to be 2 hours long, and it was so clear that they didn't want to do this anymore. They'd had enough, and I think HBO Max, well, please God, they've learned from it, because I'm excited, man. I mean, if they can come up to maybe, let's say, 70% of the quality of the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, let's just say 70%, it's gonna be great, right?
Right.
It's gonna be really, really good telly. In fact, it's a little bit sad when you think about it. Right, the Game of Thrones time, when you look back at the television that we had with Breaking Bad and all that stuff, and I used to think, fucking hell, we're living in such a great era, aren't we? Like TV and films, they're just so good. And then I don't quite know what happened after that, but perhaps we can get back to that, because with Batman and now this Game of Thrones thing, you never know. We could be entering a new era. Come on, David Zaslav, do the right thing.
Well, Dwayne Olson says, Russ, I think Dan and Dave already wrote the Game of Thrones. GRRM was never able to write and never wanted to write. How can that series crash any harder after season 8?
It was a new low, man, wasn't it? I mean, that. Uh, I don't know, because people are people are people, and they're going to want to do different things. But the way that's, even the embarrassment of the cast. I mean, I think this is the thing, isn't it? The actual palpable embarrassment of all of the cast members having to sort of talk it up, and you could sort of see that in fact, some of them were openly mocking it. People go, "Oh, it's not what you expect, that's for sure." It was all that. It was all that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think, oh yeah, Mikey Lito's obsessed with the best bum in DC psychosexual drama. Write it, Mikey, write it. Get it up on fanfiction.net.
Yes.
It makes sense. Yeah, so that was a terrible rush. I don't know. The trailer looked really good, and it kind of looked to me like it. There's must be some creatives on here, right? Writers or whatever. So if you were given the job of writing the next Game of Thrones series, you think, well, what worked about Game of Thrones, and what what worked about this one, and what didn't, and they must have looked at that. Of course, it's a prequel, and we do kind of know what's going to happen, but there's such a lot they can do with that. And unlike Tolkien, I don't think people are going to get as bent out of shape with them taking liberties with this one, because any hardcore fan of George R. R. Martin, the author, and the books, has already had their expectations dumped all over by seasons 7 and 8. So maybe we're inured to it now. So yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be good too. And I have a feeling it is good. I'm not, I don't think a pilot episode or a pilot season, the first season, would be trash. I think that's when a lot of times we see a lot of the best writing.
Hmm.
And that's what they do, because they want to get everybody hooked into the show and coming back for the next season. So I think we're going to see some fantastic stories in that. And unfortunately, that sting of that last season of Game of Thrones, that bad taste is never going to leave your mouth, but it is what it is.
I wonder, though, if this 10 episode is going to be a complete story in and of itself. Is it just a story of the Mad King over 10 hours, and that's what we're going to get? And if that lands, then maybe we'll get, the Robert Baratheon rise to power story, and then we'll get these series that are sort of connected but not. So you'll get 10 episodes of Baratheon, you'll get 10 episodes of the Mad King, and then maybe in a couple of years' time, we're going to get Arya Stark off doing whatever she went to do wherever she went, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good
We shall see.
question. No, it's a very good question. And Toffee20, hello, Toffee20, and thank you
Hey,
for
man.
tuning in. Patterson and Kravitz bring a youthful sexiness to Batman. I would agree on that. There
Mhm.
definitely is a sense of that youthfulness. And I have to wonder, I mean, when I saw Batman 89, let's say, with Michael Keaton and I can't remember the woman's name, but they were both young. They weren't old in that film so many years ago, but it didn't
I
have
keep
the
wanting to
same.
say Daryl Hannah, but it's not. It's Kim Basinger, wasn't it?
Yes, it's Kim Basinger, but it didn't have the same feel, did it, Russ? This one does have kind of a youthfulness, like a certain, maybe it's a certain amount of hope that their youth brings to the story. Maybe that's why they're able to sort of fight in this dark, environment that seems very pessimistic, that seems very sad, that seems very hopeless,
Mm.
their youth might be what's pushing through that, that drive to get them through these difficult situations. So maybe that's also another element, because they did make a point of saying that he's in his 30s and he hasn't fully developed as a crime fighter yet, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's also, I think, I'm a hell of a lot older now than I was in 1989. So I wouldn't probably look up to Keaton as young and vibrant. Who knows what the 30, 40, 50 year olds at the time were thinking when that one came out. But yeah, they are young. They're young to me anyway. So it's as we've said so many times, it's a completely different take. This isn't a grizzled Ben Affleck who's burnt out, psychotic, and has become what he hates. He's not that guy. It's a different guy fighting a different serial killer, matching wits against an equitable genius. What's not to love?
Absolutely. And Mikey Lito says he always thought Kim Basinger was very sexy. She was very sexy. And, as I've said, I was actually commenting on something about Michael Keaton last night, seeing him in this movie that he made with what's the
Oh, I
girl's
know what
Maggie
you're going to
Q.
say.
Maggie Q's in the protege for a 70-year-old man. I certainly had to reset my parameters in what a 70-year-old man can do, because he certainly was ready to, they have a sexual encounter in the story. And I think it's very interesting because it's not exactly, I kept having to go back and say, how old is Michael Keaton? Didn't I see him in 1989 in a movie? That's kind of a while ago, but he certainly didn't lose his stride. He didn't lose any sense of confidence. And I can see why, he just has had kind of a renaissance, as I was saying last night, with being in Worth, being in Dope Sick, being in all these movies. He was in a Spider-Man film. Michael Keaton is not slowing down, and perhaps he's redefining what it means to be 70. Um,
Mm,
but if this new Batman is focusing on youth, and that idea, of now how a person in this age category is going to fight evil, then Michael Keaton wouldn't necessarily fit in well into this framework for me. But like I said, in 1989, it didn't have that feel, and he was not an old person then, nor was King Basinger. They were young,
hmm
but this has a very, very different feel to it. I feel like the responsibility of the entire world is on Batman's shoulders in this new film. At least it feels that way for me. So yes, I love Kim Basinger as well. Um, uh, and Tom Jr. Jackson is talking about some of the other films that she was in too, and I love those too, Tom. Carlos A. Smith, hello,
Hey,
Carlos.
Carlos.
How are you today? Carlos says none of the previous Batmans never brought up or illustrate the sexiness, as Werner wants to bring in the young crowd as the next spenders on their franchise. Well, let me tell you something, Carlos. If they want to bring in sexiness, we need to see some nudity in this film. And it needs to be good nudity. It can't sort of be a 2-second, full frontal. We need to see some decent raw nudity in this that is realistic, of two people who may or may not be having an intimate encounter. Let's just go ahead and do it justice and bring these films into another realm for me. What do you think, Russ? What do you think about that idea?
Um, well, I'm not going to say no to naked Zoe Kravitz, am I? I mean, I'm only human, for fuck's sake. Come on. I hope now the internet doesn't come and brand me as a horrible misogynist. And I'm a guy. I like girls. That's kind of how I roll. I doubt it. Our is the sad answer to that question, because it's PG-13. So I doubt if we'll get to see anything like that. However, on the HBO Max, because HBO was the first one to sort of have all the steamy full frontal stuff, right? So as
Yes.
far as I remember, so I imagine if they do a Gotham spin-off, then you might get full on sexy Poison Ivy and heating up the screen and all the rest of it, and that would be awesome. I just keep thinking that if you are gonna, I just keep thinking HBO Max is the place for the stuff, and I hope that they do what Marvel do, but do it a little bit smarter. and have these connected movies that are pushing their huge cinematic juggernaut forward, but have these like really cool adult shows on HBO Max. Because here's the thing, sorry, who was saying about Warner's and bringing in the young audience?
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. That was let me just pull that up again.
yeah, I sorry, I can do it here, I think. Yeah, no, I've missed it. I'm sorry. Anyway, whoever was saying that, and I apologize because there's a lot going on at the moment. Um, and I've lost my train of thought. What were we saying? Warner Brothers,
You were talking
HBO
about,
Max. Yeah. So I think
yes.
HBO Max should be the place that we go to for uh, more adult stuff, because you're saying about bringing in the young audience, but the old audience is not dead, right? So the people that grew up with Christopher Reeves, or later than Christopher Reeves, people 10 years younger than me that started off with Batman 1989, they're in their 30s, 40s, and 50s now, or the 40s and 50s now, right? So there is a market for very adult superhero stuff, as you saw with Peacemaker, which is the highest rated DC property, right, on Rotten Tomatoes. So there's why can't we have both? As I keep saying, actually, I should get that on a t-shirt, shouldn't I? Why can't we have both? So yes, but I think it's an astute observation. Whilst the older audience is still there, you do need to be attracting younger ones. But then again, my daughter loves all this stuff, so maybe kids are into it. I've got a viewpoint of one, and she's hugely into it. So yes, but a good point, mate. That was
Well,
Carlos.
it's
Sorry, Carlos. I apologize.
it's something to think about. I think that as we're trying to get a more mature, a more realistic um Batman, I think that there does need to be some level of maturity to the film, and we know that this is PG or PG-13 or whatever they're doing. Let's be honest about it. Bloodsport 1 says sexualized Catwoman and female villain. Come on, she is incredibly sexy. She exudes sexiness. Even when Eartha Kitt was playing this role in the 1960s, it was exuding sexiness, and we knew that. So,
Oh, come
um,
on, Michelle Pfeiffer.
yes, she was maybe the best one of the bunch, but it was exuding sexiness. And let's not pretend like that isn't one of the elements at play here in the story. And it would be good to see it take more of a forefront as an element in the story. So that's what I'm hoping for. And I guess maybe it won't. But, as far as I'm concerned, why not go ahead and play that up in the story? And I assure you, people will have a different response, and it will progress the character in a different way, because sexual act, like these sexual scenes can be used to move a story forward. You're not the same after you've done something with someone. So I think it would be very interesting to see that, and perhaps it would give the Batman something to lose that he isn't prepared to lose in the story. So I always think that that's a very interesting twist to kind of look at. um,
I tell you
and
what, though, I tell you what, I'd love to see in the Snyderverse, if it's to be restored, I'd love to see Halle Berry as come back as Catwoman, because oh my god, I don't care what you say about that. I quite like that movie. I know it's stupid. I know it's stupid, and I know it's bad, but it's Halle Berry as Catwoman, and
yeah.
she's so beautiful. It almost hurts your eyes looking at her. And then when she's one of the, there's some actresses that are so beautiful they almost hurt your eyes, and they're not sexy. They're just like goddesses that you want. But she can do both, right? She can be the statuesque beautiful god, but there's something, she is like, oh dear, I'm not going to wax too lyrical because I'm British, but you know what I mean, like she is like sexy as all hell. So yes, I did quite enjoy her Catwoman performance.
I agree, and I think that they have picked some wonderful women to play the role, and it's not easy to get someone who can effectively translate the sexiness part in a way that doesn't require words. So I I hope that we do see something different from Zoe's character playing this role. I hope she adds a very nice twist to it. And they do, no matter what anybody says, Pattinson and Kravitz have a lot of chemistry on screen.
Oh
I think
yeah.
someone said that earlier. It might have been Toffee 40 or one of the other persons in the stream. They do have a lot of chemistry. And I hope we get to see a lot of that. I hope that it isn't kind of like pushed to the wayside or ignored. In addition to that, and kind of like a final note on that, Toffee 20 says Kravitz has the attitude and bad girl vibe. Well, she certainly does,
Absolutely,
doesn't she?
absolutely, yeah.
That's something a little different about her. And I'm hoping to see a lot of that there. Mario says, however, that he has some doubts about the actors, but he will give them a chance. I sure hope you do, Mario. Of course, we're going to
Mario,
see.
that's all you can do, isn't it? Give it a go. Give it a go. You might not like him, you might love him, and I think that is, if I may say, are a lovely sentiment for positive fandom. Like, I'm not sold on this, but I'm going to give it a try. And you might come out of that cinema thinking, well, I'm glad I did.
Absolutely. Dwayne Olson says, one of the unstated elements of Batman, why is he always hot for the feline dominatrix? And my answer to that is, isn't everybody hot for the female dominatrix? Isn't everybody have the hots for that? So that's my answer, because I love seeing female dominatrixes. And of course, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I always thought she was imitating Batman's costume, and it just came out as a dominatrix version of that. So, I always thought Batman probably looked at her and said, wow, your costume looks a lot like mine. Where'd you get the idea for that? But, of course, dominatrix costumes have been around way before, maybe even before Batman was created. So I don't know, but I have a feeling that he realized once he saw that outfit that she was in, he thought, gee, we look like we could be a pair, like a team. But not exactly, because a dominatrix cannot be tamed, so to speak. What do you think, Russ?
I think if you've got Halle Berry or Michelle Pfeiffer or Eartha Kitt or whoever it is in that particular outfit, well, he's only human, isn't he? That's like, everyone says that he's only human. Well, he is only human. Look at him. And I think that the thing with Catwoman is she is an equal to him, but also perhaps sort of unattainable to him, in that she is on the other side of the law, and he's sworn to uphold the law in a certain way. So there is that sort of, you're doing wrong things, and I have to catch you in whatever way I can, going on between it. It's been bubbling up for years, hasn't it? The Batman Catwoman thing. Keck 44, hello, howdy.
Hi.
Yeah, it's they didn't Batman get ditched at the altar in the comics? I think they were about to get married, and then they didn't, right? Which is sad, I suppose. But then I can see why they didn't do that, because do you really want Batman married and settled down? No, he has to kind of be tragic and miserable. Yeah, Superman gets to settle down and be happy because he's Superman, but Batman not so much.
Well, Batman always manages to find someone else. So, he's certainly not in want of a partner, so to speak. There's always some woman or somebody sniffing around him who wants to kind of get a taste of that. So I don't think he'll ever be the kind of guy who, if given the choice, will have someone who's willing to share his bed. So I don't feel sorry for Batman when it comes to finding a partner. But what I can say is, I wonder if we're even going to see any of that, because a lot of reiterations of Batman, we've seen him sort of portrayed as sort of like, a playboy, or, having crowds and crowds of people around him. And I don't know if we're going to see that in this one. I'm almost thinking maybe not, because it seems like there's kind of like a dour feeling, or kind of like a, dark malaise over this entire setting, especially if, the focus is on attack of people who might be in a higher, social standing. What do you think, Russ? Will we be seeing a Batman who may not be carousing or enjoying the finer things in life?
Yeah, well, the shots of him as Bruce Wayne seem to cast him in quite a lonely light. I think I read somewhere that this Bruce Wayne's more of a recluse than anything else, or that could be wrong. Now, I know they went down that road with Christian Bale in the third Batman, Dark Knight Rises, but it'll be interesting to see him do that from the get go. That this guy is a sort of little bit weird and a little bit out there, a sort of almost like a Lex Luthorish Bruce Wayne, if you like, that someone that's really not connected to stuff. And then of course you find out why. It's because he spends his nights, his days working out and learning how, training and building cars, and then his nights out on the roofs beating the shit out of people dressed as skeletons. So yeah, again, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to portray Bruce Wayne, and that's why I'm so excited to see, what they do. I mean, Snyder's Bruce Wayne was, he had a couple of girls in the bed, and he woke up and he was having wine for breakfast and taking tablets, and and all that sort of thing. And he's a sort of self-proclaimed alcoholic. Like, he goes over to Lex Luthor's party, and he just says, he's helping him, finish all the wine in his cellar. I mean, this guy is. He wasn't even a playboy. He was just like a sort of socialite drunk, wasn't he? Really. So who knows what they're going to do with Pattinson?
True. And Dwayne Olson says the thing I've always liked about Batman is that he is the only human that God, Superman, fears. If Pattinson can convey a dangerous brain of a man, I will be impressed.
Well, let's hope the writers have done a good job. Um, does Superman fear Batman? I don't know if he does fear him, Dwayne. I think he certainly trusts him more than he trusts anybody else, even if he doesn't agree with him. And that thing has been played over and over again, isn't it, with the kryptonite? And Superman does not agree with how Batman conducts himself, but he also knows that Batman would be the one to take the right choice if Superman ever lost control of himself. So I don't know if it's about fear. I could be wrong, and I think that might be subjective, and maybe there are examples in the comics where he does, but everything I've seen and read, it seems more like Batman's the only one that Superman would trust to stop him, because Wonder Woman may hesitate, Green Lantern may hesitate, but Batman certainly wouldn't.
Yes, Wonder Woman would definitely hesitate. I have to agree with you on that one. Paul in Long Beach says 2 creatures of the night dressed in black leather. Just take my money now. And that is something I can say about it so far, as that, as far as I'm concerned, the costume design from what we've seen feels quite spot on, and certainly does feel very appropriate for the genre. So I'm also excited to see what else they put forward in this movie. And so Russ, what are your final thoughts on the Batman movie coming up? What are your final thoughts on that?
Oh, as I say, I don't know anything about it other than what I've seen in the trailers, and I think the trailers have given us enough to know what kind of film we're going to go and see. It's a sort of serial killer, psycho drama, thriller, film noir. I'm very much looking forward to it. Like, Outcast Creative is saying, I don't want to know any more about it. And this is why you to dial it right back to the beginning. Why are you so excited? Because yes, it's a big event movie. We don't know what we're walking into. We knew what we were getting when we went to see Spider-Man: No Way Home. It was no big shock when Garfield comes running in and when Maguire appears. We knew that was going to happen. It was still awesome, and it gave my heart so much joy to see Garfield running down the thing, and he pulls his mark off, and he's got his perfect hair and all that. So fantastic. But this is like a roller coaster. I mean, I don't know, or more like a ghost train, right? I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. And that, in this era of spoilers and internet assholes and all the rest of it, that is a rare thing, right? So yeah, that's my final thoughts is I don't know. I just know that I want it to be great.
And this may be where we have to end the broadcast. And, of course, I'm not surprised that we spoke mostly about the Batman, because we're so excited about it. Russ, was there anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap up today's show?
Actually, yes, there is, because I know that that you're not going to. So I feel that I should do this. I'm only a guest on this channel. Has many other shows and things that she does, especially on a positive fandom, unboxings and all this, and reviews of things. And it would bring my heart more joy personally if people in the chat, when they go onto other streams, could actually spread the word. Smash that like and subscribe and all that sort of thing. But I think really, this is such a great channel in terms of its positivity, and if you could just invite your friends just to come over, check out some of our work. It's all great stuff, and I think she deserves all the success.
Thank you so much, Russ. That is so kind of you. I so appreciate you doing
So,
that for me. And, it is wonderful having you on the show every week. You certainly do make the show more enjoyable. And, that's why I am here. That's why we're all here. We want to hear everybody's thoughts and kind of enjoy everybody's opinions, regardless of what they are, and stay positive and, just kind of enjoy the fandom, enjoy, everything that comes out of it and all of our different thoughts and concerns. So I so appreciate you saying that. Do work very hard to make the channel, very, enjoyable for everyone and offer different, selections going forward. And thank you, Toffee 20. Maybe I will get one. The other thing that I was going to say is, Russ, where can people find you?
I'm not really on social media or anything like that. I do have a 1,000-year out of date website at russellwhitfield.com, and you can contact me there if you want to discuss anything. I'm always up for a chat. But yeah, I'm not. I don't. I did open up my Twitter recently because I wanted to hashtag Restore the Snyderverse. That's the only reason why I did it, and I don't often check it. So if you would like to get hold of me, please just drop me an email at contact@russellwhitfield.com.
Excellent. And, as you already know, you can find me here on Positive Fandom here on YouTube. I also stream on Twitch at the same time. So some of you are watching me on Twitch, Positive Fandom, that's one word. And on Monday nights, you can catch me streaming with Lorraine Creole, who was here earlier today, on a show called Toxic Femininity at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, you can often find me on the 1/6 Scale Man Network, streaming with Lael Rockwell, and at 8 p.m. 9:15 p.m. Eastern on those nights. I'm also doing a series with Lorraine Creole on the Reacher series, and we're doing watch parties, and you can see our reactions to the Reacher series as we go on.
I think we all know what your reaction to Jack Reacher is, Aaron.
And also, you can find me on Friday afternoons, where I stream with Midnight's Edge in the morning at 12 p.m. Eastern with Tom, Andre, and Cameron Pasha. On Friday nights, you can usually find me on the Burnett Work with Robert Meyer Burnett. And of course, you can always find me back here on Sundays for our Sunday brunch. We may be an hour later next week. I'm not sure, but you will see the time announced on the channel. And I did want to thank everybody for coming out. Please do like and subscribe to my channel.
Yeah, there you go.
And also check out other social media that I have as well. And also check me out on the Burnett Work for my PGS reviews and PGS All-Star shows. Make sure you like and subscribe and set the alarm so that you can get all of the new videos when they come out and be notified. And I do want to thank everybody in the chat for coming out. Thank you, Tom Jr. Jackson, my collaborator and my moderator, who is always there. We are all goof people. And I also want to thank Ashley Chase. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ashley.
And Bloodsport 1. It was, I wish. Maybe one of these days. Mikey Lito says he's having Grogu withdrawal. Don't worry, Mikey Lito. I'm going to be doing a show on Grogu as well. So don't worry on that part. But I just want to thank everybody for coming and for enjoying these great moments that we have in the fandom. It's a great time to be a fan, guys. And special thanks again to Russ and to Tom Jr. Jackson and everybody who's out there. Always remember, as you are going through the galaxy in your day-to-day lives, please always remember to be kind.
Bye, guys.